Consider all the worlds thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art.
You might think you know a good father when you see one, but let me tell you, you certainly know a good father when you have one.
My Savior God, to thee. How great thou art. How great.
Whatever God does will endure forever. There is no adding to it or taking away from it.
For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor present things, nor future things, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord.
We are assembled here in faith and confidence to pray for our brother Poppy. Strengthen our hope so that we may live in the expectation of your son's coming. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer.
God saw you getting tired, and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." With tearful eyes, we watched you and saw you pass away, and although we love you dearly, we could not make you stay. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands at rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us that he only takes the best.
He lived life so long to enjoy his wife, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I only seem to have an instant image of him always wanting or holding his wife's hand.
So I'd wheel him down there, and every time he'd sit there and look at his picture, and he would light up like a Christmas tree, right? He was so proud of that.
When I was playing him, I was trying to kick his butt, but he was like playing against the wall. You know, no matter what, he would hit it back.
Before I say adios, I want to thank you for all the things you did for us and the little things I'll always remember.
Resourcefulness meant survival and allowed stale bread and peaches growing in their yard to become a meal to be grateful for.
His hardship shaped him into a man who respected perseverance and hard work.
As a man who respected perseverance, work ethic, diligence, and resilience, he wanted to unite the community he loved around these shared ideals. So it was only right that these qualities were embodied through the victory bell.
After 22 years watching Poppy's face as the bell rang, it's easy for us to see now that it was his best work.
To us, the bell will now signify Quinn and Poppy and how their impact could never be forgotten.
Thank you for making me feel
your pure love and support, with appreciation for all the simple things I can do for you and Mama.
Your energy, your spirit is in each and every one of us in ways neither religion nor physics can explain.
On behalf of the entire Ramos family, thank you for joining us this morning. I think under normal circumstances, the church next door would just be packed. But thankfully, through modern technology, it allows us to feel the presence of all of our loved ones who are joining us today in celebrating Mass in honor of David Edward Ramos, our dad, and affectionately known to their grandchildren, to his grandchildren as Papi. I'll do my best to keep it together up here, but to talk about my father, a great man who has spent the past 91 years on this earth, and to try to summarize the very essence of his life in just a few minutes, well, that's the great task that my wonderful 5 siblings have tasked me to do here, and thank you very much. I hope you had the opportunity to read my dad's obituary, which shares his life story. But today, my hope is that I can share with you a little more about the core of who he really was and what he meant to all of us. Although Dad was educated, he was not one of those smooth-talking storytellers who would captivate an audience. We all know that. But he was rather quiet and a kind soul who would just draw you in with that trademark smile. With Dad, you always knew where he stood, as he was strong in his convictions and passionate about his beliefs. If you could boil it down to 4 things Dad loved and dedicated his life to, it would be the following: his love of God, his love of our country, his love of the community, and of course, his love of his family. He loved them all with a passion, and it was obvious to all who knew him. First, his love of God. Having been raised during poor and worrisome times of the Great Depression, and as he faced countless challenges during the course of his life, Dad always believed that his uncertain path would be lit if he just put his faith in the Lord. He was Catholic, period. Not raised Catholic, like some people say, but just plain old Catholic, and he professed to it. He and Mom called St. Joseph's here their home parish, and were faithful members for over the past 50 years. He was unwavering in his values about respect and integrity. I would be hard-pressed to count on one hand the number of times I would hear him utter a word of profanity. I always found that ironic because he was in the Navy, and after all, it is said that someone who curses a lot has the mouth of a sailor. As I'm looking at a couple of my siblings. But not Dad. In fact, when he would hear profanity, you could often hear him say, "Have some class." Dad was one of those always to lend a helping hand and offer support to those in need. Lastly, Dad always wore a crucifix around his neck as a reminder of his devotion to his faith, and he was even wearing that during his final days. Next is his love of our country. Dad was part of a very large family. He was the 3rd eldest of 10 children, and 5 of them served in the United States Navy, which included one of his sisters, Bernice. He was proud of his older brothers, Junior and Bobby, who served our country during World War II, and he followed suit by enlisting in the Navy in 1951 during the Korean War. Dad worked hard and was promoted 5 times during his 4 years of service and achieved rank of Yeoman First Class. He embodied the words duty, honor, sacrifice. He knew that freedom was not free, and his generation could see firsthand the cost of freedom. He loved going to Veterans Day services, as he would be around people who shared the feeling of mutual respect and appreciation. As I think about some of the very nice Veterans Day services we attended, it was actually Veterans Day of 2020, oddly enough, that I will never forget. Because there was no Veterans Day ceremony to take Dad to, I took him out in the sunshine to grab a bite for breakfast, and then we went home and simply hung out and played a couple games of chess. Needless to say, I think we would both agree, best Veterans Day ever. Next is his love of his community. Dad believed in establishing roots in a community, and he planted those seeds in Placentia 50 years ago. He joined the Elks Club, served on planning commission, went to city council meetings, participated in Heritage Day events, and he was an avid supporter of local athletics. He had a particular fondness for El Dorado High School. Just being around any event involving the El Dorado Hawks just made him so happy. I assume the Placentia community will remember Dad the most for the football tradition he started with the Victory Bell. This brought him so much joy and created such great memories for the students and local families for the past 21 years. However, for those who really knew him, they might not remember the sound of the bell, but they surely will remember the sight of his smiling face. I cannot explain the sense of community any better than to share a few words that came straight from one of the most respected Hawk icons that I know, Connie Gross. "What a singular man," she says, "leader, friend, and Golden Hawk. His incredible legacy is his beautiful family and his deep-seated love for others. His fierce and sacrificial loyalty to the El Dorado family was unparalleled. His friendship blessed me in countless ways. EDHS would not be the same without his indelible touches." One of Dad's proudest honors was to be inducted into El Dorado's Athletic Hall of Fame at the same time as another one of our family members, an Olympic medalist. Dad was humbled by the fact that he was being honored among some of the greatest local athletes whom he greatly admired. What he failed to realize, though, is that everyone else could see that his decades of passion and hard work in service to others is precisely what a Hall of Famer looks like. And finally, his love for his family. You might think you know a good father when you see one, but let me tell you, you certainly know a good father when you have one. All right, I thought I could get through this. My siblings and I have learned firsthand that the best present a father can give you is his presence. I have no memory of some great pearls of wisdom that Dad imparted on us kids, because like I said, he was sort of quiet in that department, but he spoke volumes in his actions. He was always present in our family life. He was there to show us how to ride a bike, hit tennis balls, teach us to swim, or even learn how to change out a water heater. For the record, he did not teach us how to shoot a basketball because his only shot was that left-handed hook that was just awful. He always organized big parties at the house or Big Bear, designed just to get the family together. I use the term organize loosely. It was more like pitching the idea, setting the date, and then hyping up the event, and then he'd get out of the way and let Mom, take over and do all the hard work after that. In spite of his busy calendar, he always somehow found time to attend all his children's and grandchildren's athletic and extracurricular activities. He just lived for that. Lastly, I want to share, there's one thing that Dad loved more than anything, and that was my mom. It all started in 1955 when my dad's cousins, the Lardizabal family, introduced my dad to their gorgeous blonde-haired, blue-eyed neighbor who was only 21 years old at the time. Mom was of German nationality who immigrated from Austria to the United States just 3 years earlier. It was love at first sight, and they married a year later. I must say, Dad made it his life purpose to always care for Mom. Even though Dad thought he was the tough Navy veteran who needed to protect Mom because she was an immigrant who had a rough childhood taking place in the epicenter of World War II. But it was actually Mom who was the exponentially tougher one, and frankly, tougher than all of us put together. But she just humored him and let him act like he was in charge. Dad was so obsessed with making her feel comfortable that this Ramos kid from Los Angeles learned to speak German. He listened to Oompa bands. He danced the polka and waltz. He loved German cuisine, especially Grandma's Kuchen. They watched The Sound of Music together and even traveled together to Europe to visit Mom's favorite place on earth, Salzburg, Austria. In their later years, when Mom's dementia had been getting the best of her, Dad was always there to calm her down and get her centered again. They would listen to her favorite song, which we all know is Edelweiss, and again, Mom would feel peace and comfort. But then, in the end, it was you, Mom, the strong one, who comforted Dad by holding his hand, and you gave him strength, love, and peace to let him know that you are now placing his hand into that of the Lord's, and you let him know that everything will be okay. So before I ask the eldest grandson, Christopher, to come up here, and with Selene's help, I know Dad would have wanted you to hear these familiar and comforting words so that you may feel God's peace and Dad's love, so you know that He will be in our hearts forever.
Thank you for that. It was beautiful. And thanks, Rob. When we reach adulthood, we're able to see our grandfather more fully as a person with a lifetime of his own life experiences, hopes, and dreams. We're able to see him not just as grandpa, but as a friend. Poppy's grandkids spent the last couple weeks texting, Zooming, talking about what we all remembered about our grandpa. We shared many stories and laughed quite a bit. The lives of his 13 grandkids are spread over a span of 26 years. 26 years between my birth in 1981 and Polly's birth in 2007. I quickly realized that all of the grandkids enjoyed Poppy at different stages. To break it down real quick, for 2 years it was just me. Then Natalie and Janelle came along, and me quickly became us three. For the 8 years following Janelle, it was just the three of us, and then came the Ramos baby boom of the 90s. 8 more grandkids in a 6-year span. Austin, Sierra, Alexis, Haley, Chandler, Katie, our angel Quinn, and Caitlin. 6 more years passed, and Trey and Polly rounded us out as grandkids number 12 and 13. He was also a great-grandpa to 8 amazing grandkids: Dal and Austin, Emma, Sophia, Braden, Jackson, Ava, and Charlie. The reason I bring this up is because each generation or group of grandkids had different stories and memories. One personal memory I still have is when I was maybe 10 years old. I remember having this fascination of the grandfather clock that stood at the bottom of the staircase of the Gillian house. I never knew the history of the clock, and I wish I spent more time talking to Poppy about it. But I was just fascinated by it. Was it a heirloom passed down from his father? Was it a good find at the local garage sale Grandma was at? Who knows? But on this particular night, I was spending the night at the house, and I was upstairs in Rob's old room when an earthquake struck. For some unknown reason, I sprang up and ran to the banister of the staircase. As the trembling turned into a long rolling motion, I see Poppy come sliding across the tile floor like the Tom Cruise scene in Risky Business, wearing only his socks, boxer shorts, and a white tank top. He grabbed hold of that clock to make sure it would not fall. Mind you, I'm maybe 10 years old and at the top of that staircase. Grandma's probably in her room freaking out, but here comes Poppy sliding across that floor to save the clock. Some images you just cannot get out of your head. I can still hear the chimes that would go off at all hours of the night, as well as that bird's cuckoo. Uncle Rob later told me the clock was just something he wanted in the early 70s, so he bought one. Am I keeping you up? Was a common phrase we heard if we ever dared to yawn in front of Poppy. We always remembered his German phrases, but never really knew what they meant, like "as was gosas" and "was wacken sie," "tu tu." And one of our favorites is always "who dat?" The older generation of Natalie, Janelle, and I always remembered him working so very hard. He was super obedient and always did what Grandma said. The younger generation remembered him attending numerous sporting events that they were involved in. He would have a hat for each grandkid, and he would be sure to wear it when he knew he was going to see them. He was a huge supporter of his grandkids. As kids, we never really paid attention or really cared to appreciate the work Grandpa did. As adults, we look back and realize that it was his sacrifice and hard work that allowed us to benefit from so many great times and memories in Big Bear and the beach house. His early sacrifices allowed for his grandkids to enjoy the luxuries of a lakefront house with our very own sledding hill and a party boat. I'll never forget the vacations to Big Bear that always included shoveling snow or raking pine cones. Looking back as an adult now, because I actually have to adult myself, I really appreciated the penny pinching he did. They always seemed to have money to afford to hire somebody to do all this work. But I guess he liked to keep the business in-house. We were blessed to have benefited from his hard work and the penny pinching by doing the work in-house. Our Poppy was an amazing grandpa. Our memories will be cherished forever. We'll always remember tiptoeing around him while he slept in the middle of the floor, in front of the TV, with his folded pillow. We'll cherish the endless supply of butterscotch pudding he got from a supplier at Hunt's, the ants in the syrup, Gina Maria's pizza, and the bucket of chicken from the Colonel. We'll always remember our Mexican grandpa that would yell at us in German. That hard-working, buttoned-up shirt Poppy that would not let us leave the table until our plate was finished. We would look back at the hours spent as excited kids waiting on Christmas to open presents because he wanted to get pictures of each family in front of their 12-foot Christmas tree. He was always happy seeing us through the lens of his camera. We will miss that soup plantation going, coin rolling, newspaper reading, Spanish quizzing, makes you go to church on Sunday guy. In closing, God saw you getting tired and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." With tearful eyes, we watched you. Is there dust in here? And saw you pass away, and although we love you dearly, we could not make you stay. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands at rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us that he only takes the best. Thank you for all you have done for us, Poppy. We love you, and we're going to miss you.
A reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. There is an appointed time for everything, and a time for every affair under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot the plant. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather them. A time to embrace, and a time to be far from embraces. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. Whatever God does will endure forever. There is no adding to it or taking away from it. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, if God is for us, who can be against us? He did not spare his own son, but handed him over for us all. Will he not also give us everything else along with him? Who will bring a charge against God's chosen ones? It is God who acquits us. Who will condemn? It is Christ Jesus who died, rather was raised, who also is at the right hand of God, who indeed intercedes for us. What will separate us from the love of Christ? Will anguish, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or the sword? No, in all these things we conquer overwhelmingly through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor present things, nor future things, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Your response is, hear our prayer. In baptism, Poppy received the light of Christ. Scatter the darkness now and lead him over the waters of death. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer.
Those who trusted in the Lord now sleep in the Lord. Give refreshment, rest, and peace to all whose faith is known to you alone. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayers.
The family and friends of Poppy seek comfort and consolation. Heal their pain and dispel the darkness and doubt that came from grief. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer.
We are assembled here in faith and confidence to pray for our brother Poppy. Strengthen our hope so that we may live in the expectation of your son's coming. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer. Lord God, giver of peace and healer of souls, hear the prayers of the Redeemer, Jesus Christ, and the voices of your people, whose lives were purchased by the blood of the Lamb. Forgive the sins of all who sleep in Christ, and grant them a place in your kingdom. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Please. Okay, these are loving memories from the sisters, Carmen, Margaret, Darlene, Betty, and Barbara. These are some fond memories of Brother Dave from the hearts of his sisters. Betty remembers the days while living in Tijuana, Mexico. I was 7 and you were 14. You would ask me what my favorite cake was, and you would just whip it up from scratch. Christmas, you made sure I had ribbons for my braids, which was a big luxury in those days. You made me memorize my multiplication tables until I got them right. Thank you, Brother Dave, for your generosity and love you gave my whole life. You were always my hero. Carmen wrote, everyone knows what a special person my brother Dave was, and especially all he did for my mom and dad. Let me tell you, all who did not know him while growing up, he was my mom's favorite. During World War II, he and Brother Bob sold newspapers on the very busy intersection in LA, near the aircraft factory. They were 13 and 14, and my brother Bobby always made the most tips. Another great memory was when I turned 60, and we were all invited to Big Bear. We were taking pictures, and I turned to him and said, wow, do you think we can do this a few more times? And he said, like, how many years you talking about? And we said, maybe we can go to 90. He said, I know I can if you can. I'm nearly 90. I love you, Brother Dave. Darlene remembers how he made everyone feel special with his individual love for each of us girls. Brother Dave would always bake us a cake on our birthday. I was so happy that I could choose what I wanted. He made us feel so special. Say hello to Edward, JR, Bobby, Barbara, Mom, and Daddy. Love from your favorite sister. On behalf of Barbara, Barbie wrote a few thoughts. A memory always started out with my brother Dave, and then she would share stories with us. Making birthday cakes was what he did for his siblings. He bought my high school class ring and encouraged me to finish high school. We are together again. Margaret has spoken several times of her brother's generosity. She tells the story that one Christmas she wasn't going to get any presents, so her brother Dave bought her a sweater as her gift. How he helped her so many other times through her life. His kindness to come up to Vegas to see me in the nursing home when I had been so sick and getting ready to leave and go live in North Carolina was the last time I would see him. Thank you, Brother Dave. I love you and I will miss you. See you in heaven. That's it. The beautiful sentiments from his sisters. Which begs the question, has anyone here ever had a homemade from scratch birthday cake ever?
Never.
Thank you. I think the only thing I'd ever seen him bake was a plate when he took a ceramics class. I don't know. So anyway, when I told Robert that I wanted to speak at the cemetery for Dad, he went, okay. I don't know how you're going to do it, but good luck. So last night I was talking to Dad and I looked up and I said, Dad, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough to stand up here and talk to people. That's not a part of my skill set. I can't do this. And so I didn't hear anything back. Right away. So I had to imagine what Poppy would say. So, Shirley. Come on, hurry up. You can do it. Come on. Do it for Poppy. Be strong for Poppy. So this is for you, Poppy. I truly thought that you were immortal. You had overcome so many health issues over the years. Certainly, you could overcome this. Yet, here we are. The end of an era we knew as Poppy. I know each of you has precious memories of your time with Poppy, as he was such an integral part of our lives. But here are a few memories from me. Okay, let's gather round in a metaphorical circle, of course. So, I was finding it difficult to collect almost 60 years of memories for me. I mean, I have those I remember, I have those I don't remember, and I have those that will forever remain locked. So I elected to go by decades, and then by chapters, and so on and so on. All of the materials would be covered in the PowerPoint presentation handout you should have received. Chuck? Okay. One of my earliest memories was when I was about 5 years old, when Dad would come home from work. I had been waiting all day. When he finally got home, I would run up to him, wrap my arms around his legs and hug him, and he would just look down and go, come on, that's enough. Come on, go see Mama. No, go see Mama. I think that was the beginning of my childhood anxiety issues, but that's a whole other therapy session. When I was around 11 or so, I remember playing tetherball by myself in the backyard, and Dad came out to toss it around with me. Now it was cold and cloudy out, and Dad was in his robe and slippers. The tetherball was kind of close to the pool, and we were only about 2 minutes in when he stepped in to go for a kill and fell back into the freezing pool. I'd never seen anyone get out of a pool faster. All that was left was one leather slipper floating on top of the pool. We never did play tetherball again. I remember Dad belting out Pavarotti songs in the house really loudly, and we'd come inside with the neighbor kids and totally bust him while he sang operatic tenor songs like he was auditioning for The King and I or something. A couple of days before my 20th birthday, I was in a really bad car accident where my face met the windshield. I cried to Dad, "Oh, I can't look at myself. I'm so ugly. I have all these scars." So, with true Ramos vanity, Dad hung a bed sheet across the mirror so I wouldn't have to look at myself, and he assured me everything would be okay and I would be back to myself in no time. That was true love. Dad gave me an old rickety bike from the beach house so I had transportation when I accidentally had my license suspended. I even got to ride it to the court-ordered meetings. I rode that bike everywhere. I was in the best shape of my life, and I still have that bike. One time, not too long ago, he asked me, "How old are you?" And I said, 59. "Why?" And he said, "You look 35. Is that your real hair? When are you going to start wearing pantsuits and sensible shoes?" Never. Another time, Jeanette and I took Dad to visit Mom at St. Jude, and we had this big wheelchair, and I was pushing him, and Jeanette said, "Shouldn't we put the belt around him?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's fine." Well, I was pushing him forward, and we went over the lift to the door, and it was like in slow motion. He came literally out of the chair, and I'm like, "No!" And so I'm like, "Oh my God, Dad, are you okay?" And he's like, "Whew, that was fun. Crazy." One time we tried to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle to get together one time, and it would take him so long to just fit one puzzle piece. Round edge, 2 cutouts. Round edge, 2 cutouts. So it's 1,000 pieces. We're never going to get done. I had to finish the puzzle myself. I got to take care of Dad when Mom had hip surgery, and we would stay up well past 8 p.m. and watch the Netflix. And don't even get me going about the Golden Girls. Boy, did Dad have a soft spot for Rose. But then again, who didn't? Funny, he struck me more as a Dorothy type. Anyway, but now who's going to call me to fix the TV, find his hearing aid, or help send a text to Ronnie or Robert? Okay, if everyone can please turn to page 6 of the syllabus, Chuck. Finally, he was always reminding me to contribute to my 401 and save. He would ask me, "Are you okay with that? Are you going to be okay?" And I'm like, "I'm all right. I'm not rich. I mean, if there's a life insurance policy payout, I wouldn't be mad at that." That was supposed to be funny. That was my best one. Oh. I was dying on that one. Dad, I know we all wish for just one more day, one more conversation, one more laugh, one more hug. I am so blessed to have been your daughter. You lived your life with honor, humility, grace, humor, and a fierce loyalty to your family. You were definitely one of the good ones. Look around you. Look at this crazy, amazing, perfectly imperfect family you created. Your energy, your spirit is in each and every one of us in ways neither religion nor physics can explain. So see, Dad, you really, truly are immortal. I love you, Dad. And the next time I see you, run up and hug you. Don't be so quick to shake me off. Until I see you again, my heart belongs to Daddy.
Dave epitomized that of a real man. After knowing and watching Poppy for my time, I can summarize these words. a hero, a proud and true veteran and real American, a hard-working father who placed family first. He loved his wife through thick or thin, a patriarch who prioritized and taught family values. He lived life so long to enjoy his wife, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I only seem to have an instant image of him always wanting or holding his wife's hand. A caring man who always gave back to society and church. He had a way to stay in charge. He had a way to manage Helen. I don't know what that way was, but he had a way. He loved birthdays. He lived for his next, but really it was to celebrate with everyone together. Dave was a patient man, always thoughtful, always family. He attempted to reach out for family members who chose not to be with him. He never gave up. He was 91 years sharp, always articulate, well-read, and informed. He was a happy man, always smiled, always engaged. He loved visitors. He taught that family was a conduit to personal happiness. He loved sports and mostly a USC fanatic. My images of him, of his constantly wearing his USC hat. It was part of his trademark image. Always sly in his way to score tickets or convince his way to a USC game. Just another way to spend time with his sons or family members. Dedicated to his family, he stayed involved and created the high school bell rivalry. Perhaps a tradition that will come decades to come, a special legacy. He loved his grandchildren. He inspired scores of family gatherings, just pure joy. He insisted on attending every child and grandchild sporting event as one of his greatest enjoyments. He was a funny man, a perfect sense of humor, and a witty personality. He loved his wife. Wherever she was, he was there. The words of marriage, in sickness or in health. He was there 24/7 whenever he could. That was real. My photos of him only show smiles, the USC victory sign, or what is that, fight on, whenever he could. That, I lost my spot, okay. The victory sign, the hat, and the infamous blue shirt, or him holding his wife's hand. When we always met, he used to practice his Italian on me. After my DNA test, I did not have the heart to tell him I was French. A man Dave was, he only loved and always willing to forgive. He just wanted to be Poppy. He yearned to maintain his love no matter what. The real man should never be forgotten. He taught so much. He chose a very strong wife, and the two of them built a true family structure. They stayed financially prudent, smart, but I can only think that this was a legacy for their grandchildren in a tough world full of change. Helen may have ruled the roost, but Dave was the real man of the family. So in the end, my only lasting thoughts that will remain, Dave Ramos will be one of the most mild persons I knew. he truly lived his life that prioritized family. That's what I'll always remember.
I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you some of the greatest times and memories that I shared with my best friend Dave. For the last 15 years plus, I was guaranteed a date every Friday night from September through December with Dave to attend the El Dorado football games. All my traveling now had to be completed by Thursday, so I had made good on our scheduled date. We rarely missed an El Dorado Friday night football game, even when they were 1-9, 2-6, 3-3. We even went to every one of them. And when I was traveling, he would call me and say, "Frank, where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm in New York." And "Are you going to be back Thursday?" "Yes, Dave, I'll be back." Click. He never said, "Well, have a safe trip." Click. As long as I was back, right? So then from January through March, I had another guaranteed every Thursday and Saturday night date. We attended just about every El Dorado boys and girls doubleheader basketball games. And yes, he insisted that we attend the girls games, right? And when we'd wheel him in there, and he would say, "Frank, how much?" And I said, "Well, I think it's $3 the entry." And he says, "Geez, you got it?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I got it." But he was loved by so many of those friends taking the tickets at El Dorado games that they just waved us through, and he would be tickled to death that we didn't pay the $3. I mean, you would have thought those tickets were $300, right? And man, Frank, we got it again. You didn't pay, did you? "No, I didn't. We're good. We're good to go." So during the games, I'd wheel him in there, right, and I'd put him up there around half court because he had to be part of the game, right, where all the action was. So I'd wheel him in there, and I would pray. I said, "Please, Dave, please don't call your friends over. Don't, please, just wave at them. They know you're here. Just wave, right?" But he would insist to wave them over, and I tell you, they all came over, right? He had many, many, many friends, and they would come up to him and they'd say, "Hey, Dave, how you doing? How's Helen or Helene? How's the kids? How's the grandchildren? How you doing?" Not one time did he ever answer, "Oh, we're doing great," right? He never answered the question 1,000 times. However, we had a conversation, right? They would be saying, "Dave, how you doing?" And he would say, "You think El Dorado can win the game?" And I said, "Dave, just tell me you're feeling good, right?" So for many, 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 many conversations we had, he never answered one of those questions. Couldn't hear. He didn't want me to tell people he couldn't hear. At the end of every basketball games, he asked me the same request every time, and we would go. These are 2 games a week we'd go, right? So he said, "Frank, can you do me a favor?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Can you wheel me down the hallway, and I want to just check on my Hall of Fame picture." "David, trust me, it's there. They didn't take it down." "No, come on, we got to go." So I'd wheel him down there, and every time he'd sit there and look at his picture, and he'd light up like a Christmas tree, right? He was so proud of that. And then I used to try and tell him, "Dave, please, we don't need to go back next week," right? No, Frankie, we got to go back. We got to go back. So again, every time, every game, we took him to that picture of him in his Hall of Fame picture. Here's some additional memories and stories that Dave and I shared, and some of the real special trips that he loved to take. As you know, we brought him to many, many trips to the casino, right? Many. Maybe at times we were going 2-3 times a week when Veronica gave us the approval. And he made it. Yeah, this is pre-COVID, right? So he clearly enjoyed every one of these trips, mainly because he could be with Helen, right? And Helen could come, and he could spend a lot of quality time with Helen doing the gambling. And I always had to, every time I got there, I always had to negotiate with him about how much time are we going to stay, right? So I would say, "Hey, how about 2 hours today?" And he'd say, "No, how about 3?" And I say, "All right," so we'd stay 2.5 hours, right? And then he'd say, "Hey, how about we stay 3 hours?" And he'd say, no, let's stay 4 hours. Helen, how long do you want to stay? And we go back and forth negotiating how long we'd stay. It was typically 2.5 hours we'd stay, 3 hours, which was really worth it. They loved gambling quite a bit, and he was very, very competitive in gambling. And I didn't mind spending 3 hours there because it was an awful quiet ride home. Man, they slept like babies on the ride home. It was just great. And let's not forget the stops that we made at Baker's Hamburgers down there in Highland, right? Which was both Helen's and Dave's unanimous choice for lunch every trip we made, right? So it was always the unanimous choice for lunch. Where it took a good 20 minutes to get them out of the car, right? And I'd say, Dave, what do you want for lunch today? Well, burrito, hamburger, Frankie, I don't know, I can't eat that much. Burrito, hamburger, burrito. What do you want, Dave? Well, surprise me. So I'd bring him a burrito, and he'd say, well, geez, I wanted a hamburger. All right, next time I'll bring a hamburger. But he just could not make up his mind. Our biggest challenge once we arrived at Baker's, which took me about 3 years to figure out, was why go through all the hassle of getting him in, getting Helen out, and getting him out of the car. So it took me about 3 years to figure out, just leave him in the car, let's feed him. We'll worry about going to the bathroom when we get home. And it was the best decision we made in 15 years. We were at Baker's. And then Dave would always pine away for his sisters in Vegas. One of the best trips that David and I took him was the one we took him. It was a one-day turnaround trip to visit Aunt Margaret in the hospital. And his sisters joined us with that visit, and it was a great, great visit. He thoroughly enjoyed the visit. And then we went back to Aunt Betty's house where they always cooked him this incredible meal, right? And then they would spend hours and hours of just reminiscing about the good old times when they were younger and growing up together. So if we could do it all over again, Dave and I should have brought him to his sisters a lot more often. I know he would have really enjoyed it. And it wasn't that tough, David, right? It was a one day up, drive up for 3 hours. They'd sit and talk for 4 or 5 hours, and we'd drive back that night. I promised Veronica I'd get him back home that night, right? Because you didn't want to get on Veronica's bad list, right? So there was never a week that went by that he didn't just beg me, Frankie, take me to my sisters. Come on, I got to go see him in Vegas. But we just couldn't make it work. Real sad. I know Rob said this morning how many things that he really enjoyed in life, but I will also add to what Rob said this morning. His number one favorite was high school basketball, right? And then it was high school football, where he thoroughly enjoyed. Then it was USC and Notre Dame football, but I believe those were the sports that he really, really liked. High school basketball, man, we must have saw 100 games together, both boys and girls. He really liked them. I also really wish we could have brought him to more USC football games, but as you know, the Coliseum is absolutely impossible as a handicap to get in to see a game. I mean, we just couldn't wheel him around there. It's just not meant for handicapped people. So he missed out on a lot of games. So I missed out on a lot of games, but I watched as many as I could with him at home. And boy, the one other wish we had, if we could all do it all again, is if we could have just brought him back to one more South Bend game, USC and Notre Dame, just one more. He must have told me at least 50 times about the time that Robert and David took him back to Chicago, and he spent the night in Chicago and on to the USC game. And if I ever saw the statue of Touchdown Jesus, probably 50 times. And now that Veronica knows who Touchdown Jesus is, right? But he would ask me 1,000 times, Frank, did you ever see that statue? I also think the other story that may have trumped his legendary story about how he's honored and blessed to run out of the Coliseum tunnel when playing football. I mean, he told me that, I don't know, probably 100 times, right? And I think he may have heard that story. I may have heard that story like 45, 50 times during the game, right? However, he also liked Dodger baseball, and he also liked high school baseball games, but they were also a very big challenge to attend. Number one, the games were typically in the daytime. I worked and I couldn't get off, and if you notice around El Dorado's baseball field, it's all grassy, and it's, again, just about impossible to wheel a guy in the grass up to a game. So we just couldn't make those many games, right? So what I did with that is I brought the baseball game to him. We would share a day at the ballpark right in his backyard where we would have hot dogs and peanuts, and we would watch a Dodger baseball game, which he really, really enjoyed. It was also another activity that he could also share with Helen. Helen would sit there, eat the hot dogs, complain about the Dodgers winning or losing, and also eat some of the peanuts. But he really, really, really liked those activities that we could obviously have Helen join us. After the baseball game, he always insisted playing a few hands of poker. Maybe one of the worst poker players of all time, right? But I've never told him that, and I always insisted that he's getting better, and boy, I can never tell when you got a good hand, Dave. Really, Frankie? Yeah, man, you got a poker face, right? So it was a pleasure playing poker with him and eating and watching him eat the rest of the shelled peanuts was always entertaining playing poker. But he loved to play poker and had you think he had the best hand. I don't think we might have played 100 times. You won $2, I think, out of all those hands, right? And I'm going to get you, though, Frankie, next time. The other game he loved to play was LCR, where all the family would play for money, and he was able to share his fun with Helen again, right? This game was easily his #1 game to play as a family gathering. He absolutely loved it. Again, he just loved to play games, and he was, and Robert talked about it this morning, he was very, very, very competitive, and he loved to compete. And I tried to play the games where we'd set him up to win, and he just loved to participate, loved to win, and he was very, 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 very competitive. So yes, I will really miss my best friend, who always talked about sports with me and always wanted to watch or attend a sporting event with me. So Dave, rest in peace. We will sorely miss you. No coffee, Rob.
Even though for the last time on December 22 of Tuesday, I heard you called my name loud and clear. Reason why I answered you immediately. That I thought I was at work, and then I found out that I was in my house. Very, very mysterious of those times, and I still can't believe that at the last moment, Pop, you still called my name. I will always remember the days when we were happy with a smile on our faces and endless conversations mixed with humor. Thank you for making me feel your pure love and support with appreciation for all the simple things I can do for you and Mama. I promise that I will not leave Mama Helen, and I will continue to take care and beautify as you want to see her always beautiful in your eyes, even when you are no longer in this world. Goodbye, Pop. May you rest in peace. Love.
So, you guys know that the last 6 or 7 years have been really, really difficult to manage everything. And there's like these unsung heroes and angels who swoop in and just help, take care of everything. There's so many, and Josie represents so many of Maria, Diane, Momsy, Joanne, on and on and on. And we're so appreciative of all that they do, and they become part of the family, and you can tell, that they feel they're part of the family. So Josie, on behalf of the family, we want to thank you and all the caregivers so much for everything that you do. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Josie. Love you.
1993 was Dad and I's first game out in South Bend. where we made our trip out there. Went to Chicago first, and he took, he wanted to always do his sightseeing, and so we went up to the Chicago. He said, "Let's go. I want to go to the Sears Tower," and went there. That was the first time I found out about, my fear of heights. Literally get to the top. I'm crawling to the middle. Dad's helping me up. I'm clinging onto him, scared to death. So that was something else. We get to the game day, and our tickets happened to be in the student section of the field, of the corner. So we were able to, Dad and I were able to get onto the field, look up around the stadium, and it was just like we were in awe. And it was before it was all renovated, and it was just like, it was something else. He was just so, his eyes just lit up. And then we walked to the student section, and he looks at me after, I don't know how many beers we had, or I had, before he gives me the stink eye. You remember when he would tell you guys, or me, be good, don't get us, don't get us beer thrown on us. And we walk up into this, we're the only ones with the SC gear on, with all these kids in Notre Dame. And he was just sweating it out. But before you knew it, they were laughing with us, joining in. They did kill us, so it was a whooping. But they were like ready to take us out to barbecues and whatnot. That was one of the greatest trips I ever had with him. And then on the last trip, I was able to take him to the same SC Notre Dame game. It's a funny story. We were able to take the train into South Bend. So we're getting on the train, and he notices Rod Dato, who is the old, he's a legend, USC baseball, and he happens to live 4 or 5 houses down from the beach house. And he looks at it, and he's looking, "Hey, Rod, Coach Dato," he's waving him down, all this. And Coach Dato's looking at him, he goes, "Remember me, Dave Ramos, down, from the beach house?" He goes, "Oh yeah, Dave, how you do?" Good to be. I don't know if Coach Dato really knew him or what, but it was just that Dad would always tell about that story, how, he knew, Dad, and it was just something else. So that was, okay, to close out the football part. So, anywho, let me see where I was. Okay. How we doing, Chuck?
Wrap it up. He's doing this. I don't know what that means.
I tell you what, I was going to mention, no, one more. He got me in, when I was in 8th grade, he got me into tennis. And I was going, tennis? Nobody plays tennis. I was just like, back in that day, it wasn't a very popular thing to do. It just started, he'd take me out and play, and you know what, I ended up loving the game, loving the competition. I loved it. Ended up teaching it, but he would take me out, and it was like, when I was playing him, I was trying to kick his butt, but he was like playing against the wall. No matter what, he would hit it back. And, here I am in high school, and he's, I don't know how old, he was probably in his 40s and 50s, still keeping up, and it was just, and how proud he was when we, he would take me to the Ford plant. He had like a tennis tournament, for all their employees, it was like a tennis club. So he would bring me, and we won one of the doubles tournaments, which was just tickled to death. But then we also played in City of Placentia, and he was a member of the tennis club. So I played with him on that tournament where we ended up losing in the finals. I wish I could remember who it was. That was how he got me to love a sport. It was great. So that was tennis. We get into drive-in movies. Big Bear. I'll skip that one. Let's go. Oh, one more. Last one, and we'll wrap it up. One more was going to, when it was just me, I was the oldest, and everybody else was too young. Dad and Mom used to love to go to movies, but Dad would really like to go to the war movies, which Mom could not stand going to, so I got to go with him and see like the Bridge over River Kwai, Papillon. There was like a couple other war movies that something else. So I mean, it was always great to be just me and him on those night trips. But thank you. That was it. You know, if we could, I can get into apartment repairs. But you know what? I wish there was one more repair job, something to do. But that was good. All right.
Good job.
Thanks.
Pops, your legacy will carry on through our families. My family and I promise to carry on the Bell legacy. We will strive to be passionate and dedicated as you have been. We will take great pride in knowing that you created the Victory Bell for the city and community of Placentia. We will do this in your and Quinn's memory. You will not be forgotten. In hearing of your passing, all anyone could speak of was how kind, sweet, passionate, creative, giving, and unwavering your faith was. Of all those qualities, I think I possess kind. I'm kind of sweet, kind of creative, but the legacy will live on. I'm thankful for always supporting me, both in life and in sports. The fact that you are willing to give your time to come to my basketball games and track events speaks to the kind of father you were. I'm thankful that even as a grandfather, you continue to put in the effort to show your support by attending, whether it be down the street or from Palm Springs to Santa Barbara. Just as long as you could be a part of it. The same sentiments were shared whenever we told you we were in Big Bear, whether it be 6 in the morning or 10 p.m. at night. You were always there no more than 2 hours. Thanks for being present for all 6. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. And I appreciate the time shared and the memories made. Wanted to thank you for being present for all 6 of my children's births. The chaos of delivery room could never be recreated. For instance, both sides of the family coming for Austin's birth. Oh, wow. That was awesome. Dr. Helen taking control of Trey's birth. Pop, both Tracy and I want to thank you for helping me carry her over 100 feet to the emergency entrance so Quinn would not be born on the parking lot asphalt. Before I say adios, I want to thank you for all the things you did for us and the little things I'll always remember. Thankful for your granddaughter Janelle for asking for pictures. What a great way to help healing process. More laughter than tears. I always remember you humming while working with you. Always give me advice on how to raise my children. The appreciation of art and music. If you listen to my music list, it will tell you a lot about me. From my childhood, becoming an old man. You took us to see Bad News Bears, one of my favorite all-time movies, and Fiddler on the Roof, which is maybe my 1000th favorite. But anyway, I have songs from the opera of Carmen and the songs from Fiddler on the Roof. I forced my kids to watch musicals such as Oliver, West Side Story, and of course, Sound of Music. Excuse me. I always remember whenever we drove, the clicking of your wedding ring on the steering wheel. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a hard steering wheel. You drive click, click, click as he's turning, and Big Bear going through that. Always remember that. Always helping with projects. Like Janelle said, can-do attitude. What I couldn't fix, I would watch YouTube videos to show me how to fix something. So thank you, YouTube. I'll always remember your quotes. Son, you got lead poisoning. And go run and make a basket and give me a monkey wrench or a crescent. Last but not least, my vision is Quinn running up to you and giving you a big hug and saying, "Welcome home, Poppy. Now it's my turn. Let's go play catch." Pops, do me a favor and don't be easy on him.
Good job.
Throughout his life, Poppy was a man driven by passion. He was passionate about a number of things, but a few that stood out were sport, community, competition, and craftsmanship. Although his repairs with duct tape were notorious, he truly outdid himself when he crafted not only the idea for the bell, but its cradle wagon. After 22 years watching Poppy's face as the bell rang, it's easy for us to see now that it was his best work.
As a man who respected perseverance, work ethic, diligence, and resilience, he wanted to unite the community he loved around these shared ideals. So it was only right that these qualities were embodied through the victory bell. A seemingly simple object grew to become the heart of a rivalry. He set out to fuel the friendly competition between El Dorado and Valencia, and in doing so, earned the respect and admiration of countless members of the community. As the most golden of golden hawks, the power of his legacy is that it brings generations together through a decades-old loyalty to their team. So let's ring the bell, because forevermore, we are the Hawks.
Although he wasn't a craftsman by choice, a life having to make do with what you have stemmed into a passion for creativity and handiwork. Childhood shapes how you approach the rest of your life, and for Poppy, that started in the Great Depression. Resourcefulness meant survival, and allowed stale bread and peaches growing in their yard to become a meal to be grateful for. Poppy never lost sight of those learned lessons, from painting apartments with brushes found in his truck, mowing lawns, and repairing pipes with something he found in the garage, to then using those experiences and inventiveness to realize his vision of recreating the UCLA and USC bell. So we'll ring this bell for the infinite yards of Poppy's cradle and his wagon of the bell.
Despite Poppy himself not having an athletic upbringing, an appreciation grew from watching his kids and his grandkids play. Over time, he learned to see that sports do not build character, they reveal it. On one of the last occasions that I saw Poppy, he was reflecting on how much he enjoyed going to my dad's track meets, and how he later enjoyed going to all our games. He went on to tell me about a time my dad was running in a track meet during high school. He started the race off well, but stumbled on one of the hurdles. He quickly got up and continued running, and after jumping over a few more hurdles, he falls again. Instead of walking to the sideline, he gets up to finish the race. And as Poppy was telling me this story, he had tears in his eyes as he told me how proud he was that my dad got up to finish after falling twice. And it made me think about the games I've played in. Whether we lost by 20 or whether I had a bad game, Poppy was always, at the very next game, proud as ever to be cheering me on. And I'll take that knowledge going forward, and I hope you do too. That we will all come across hurdles in our lives. Some we will effortlessly leap over and conquer, and some will have us falling to our knees. And I know that no matter how many hurdles I stumble across in my years to come, that Poppy will be there proud as ever to be in my stance. And rather than harden him to the world, his hardship shaped him into a man who respected perseverance and hard work. The willingness to try again was bigger than victory. So let's ring the bell not only for his victories, but for all his humble efforts.
It all began with Poppy and I tugging the bell through the streets of Placentia. Back then, we could trade off pulling the weight as it became too hard. Although you aren't here to help carry the great weight of your loss, we've learned enough from you to know that we are stronger together. Sorry.
Flowers. Allergies.
Poppy's words always had a way of sticking with you, so here are a few of his own words from 1999, the year the bell was donated. A few years ago, my grandson passed away from sudden infant death syndrome, and the following Christmas we were watching It's a Wonderful Life, where the scene came on when a bell rang and it meant that an angel got his wings. To me, the bell signifies my grandson. To us, the bell will now signify Quinn and Poppy and how their impact could never be forgotten. We'll ring this bell one last time in honor of Poppy getting his much-deserved wings.